Hi, Standers. It's Sheila Hollinger here from Marriage Revealed Ministries, and I have a message for you today. The message is about standing in the middle. We need more help in this place. We need more understanding of what it means to be in the middle. And let me explain what that is. So, we all understand how the stand first started, or how the marriage came under attack in the beginning, and we know what the end is supposed to look like. We know what we are standing for. And those are the two places that we know. We know how it began, and we know how we want it to end and what we are standing for, but we don't really have a firm grasp on the middle. And the beginning, wasn't, it's a short period of time that you go through, and the end, right? The middle, how long does the middle take? The middle is the journey, and it can take as long as it possibly has to take for us to get to the destination. So let's talk about some of the things that happens in the middle. Okay, we are learning. It is a process. You start out in one place and you wind up toward the end in a different place. Your growth, your maturity. You are focused on what you want, which is that end result. But I'll tell you right now, my end result changed. I was focused on marriage restoration. That's what I was focused on. But as I journeyed, as I took as I walked this through with God, He had to change me and shape me and show me that my end result was very, very, very limited. I basically wanted my end result to look like my beginning, what I had in the beginning. I wanted that marriage back. I wanted, the two people that I knew and I understood, him and me, and that's what I wanted back. But the journey that God was taking me through was not my road. It was not my agenda, my plans. None of it was what I was on. I was on His path. Okay. And through that path, the middle, it was unfamiliar territory. You know what the beginning looks like. You were there. You lived through it, right? And you've got a pretty clear vision and perspective of what you want for your end result. And a lot of times when you are first starting out, your end result looks quite a bit like where your beginning starting line was. You want what's familiar, you want what's comfortable, you want the security, whatever you had that you started out with, that you enjoyed or was good. That's what you want back. But a lot of times we don't realize that some of that stuff that we are secure in is not of God and not what He wants for us at all. So let me explain what I mean by that. When my marriage storm first started, I was very secure in my mind, but I wasn't secure in reality. I was secure in my mind because I was a woman who was controlled by fear. And out of fear, I took, control of the situation. And so in my mind, that's what I wanted back. My end result was me being able to be in charge again, because in the beginning, I lost control of my spouse. I lost control of everything. Actually, I lost the marriage, and I had no means of making my husband do what I needed him to do anymore. And so what happened was, for me, my end result in the beginning was to really, I wanted my husband to come back under my rule, back under everything, so I could feel secure again. So some of the things I wanted, God also wanted. So we both agreed. I wanted security. He agreed on that. But where we differed was, he agreed that security was for me to be secure in Him, me to be secure in my identity, knowing how much He loved me, for me to not be afraid, not because I took matters into my own hands, but to find that freedom from fear by knowing who He was. So a lot of the things that you want for your end result are the same things. You just have you might have a different perspective of how that is to come. Um, sometimes for finances, you might have an end goal and an end desire for what your finances. And God is saying, I agree. I want you to be provided for, but it's going to come in a different way. It's going to come through a different, avenue. So it's not that God does not want the same things for you that we want. And what happens in the middle is that's your journey of learning to transform to your heart, transforming to change to wanting the same things he wants in the same way he wants. So I had to learn that I could be secure. I could get that security through him. And I didn't want that. I wanted it through my husband. I wanted it through my control. Okay. So that was the transformation that had to come in the middle for me. And like I said, in this journey, you guys, we don't know what it looks like. We really don't. And that is okay because we know the one that is doing the work in us, and that's God. And it's really important that you are learning that in this place that you're walking, it's more and more and more about you than you realize. It's about all those places where you have not been exposed to yet. All those places that have been kept hidden from you. You haven't, you might have never had a full grasp and understanding what respect means for a man. You may never have had a full understanding what love means to a woman. You may never have had an understanding of what a marriage is and how it is supposed to reflect God. It is not supposed to replace God. And that's usually what happens in marriage is it completely replaces him, and then that marriage runs dry and it gives out because it was never meant to be a replacement for him. So the journey that we are in will start to reveal, especially as you start to struggle, as you start to squirm, as you start to get weary, as you start to get impatient, as you start to really start getting tempted to get out of this. Those are areas that are saying, all right, we've got some work to do. There's something being revealed. We're starting to see now where you're fighting back, you're pushing back, you're growing tired, you're resisting. That middle ground is really that middle place that we come in and is the longest part of our story, of our restoration story. It really is. And it's the hardest part because so much of what we are resistant to and don't want to give up and don't want to change happens in the middle. And what's so awful about this is you feel like you are stuck. And that's why I chose the photo that is on the thumbnail of standing on the line, because that's what you feel like. You can't go left, you can't go right, but you can go forward. And so many times we don't understand that. You want to go left, you want to go one way or the other, because that to you is direction, right? That to you is a turn to the left or a turn to the right. At least it's one way or the other. It's basically would either be um go right and be restored or go left and quit. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for left or right, but we hate walking the line going forward because it doesn't feel like a change of view at all. Okay. It does not feel like a new anything. It just feels like the same old, eyes up front, walking one foot in front of the other. And you aren't seeing a change of anything, right? But I promise you, if you were to completely turn around and look behind you, you would be amazed. You would be like, wow, I didn't realize I have walked this far forward. I have changed this much, because you only are looking for a complete change of scenery. whether that's a view that's completely different. And that view in front of you is really, all you've been seeing, and that is where you have to go. And you'll look and constantly see, wow, I have so far to go. I have so much to change, or this or that, and you just don't see where you've come from. When I finally looked behind me and saw how much I had grown, how much I had changed, how much God had done, He had helped me to find more places where I could learn peace instead of reacting and being so over the top in my emotions. He taught me how to not need to say so much, that I was being, constantly had this need. I had to be heard. I had to express myself. I had to say everything I had to say to my husband. And I would lecture my husband for these long, long amounts of time. And so when I finally learned that I could say everything I needed to say, or I didn't need to say anything at all, that was like amazing growth for me that I hadn't even realized. It wasn't till I turned around and looked behind me and said, wow, look where I have come in my journey and my growth with God, that I've come to trust Him so much that I realize that, I don't need to say this. I'm going to trust God. He's going to speak it to my husband for me. He's going to speak it way better than I ever could. And he's going to get a response out of my husband that I will never get, because he knows what to say, and he knows when to say it. So that was like, revelation that I had to see when I turned around to look back. And there's so many other places that I grew. I was a very emotional person because I would get stuck in those details. If you haven't got to hear my detail video, it's a really good video where it shows you how you will get completely sidetracked and sideswiped and beat all over the place and drug all over the place, because all of a sudden your eyes are on the detail. Your eyes are on what they're doing or what they are not doing. Your eyes are on what you're missing in life. Your eyes are on your problems, your stress, your pain, your frustrations, your lack. There's so many details that can come at us that can really pull us off course. And that is part of being in the middle. You're learning how to recognize when you get stuck in the detail. And you're learning how you're getting steered off course in the details. And you're learning how to get yourself back on track and give God the details, give God the expectations that you're having. Everything that I've written in a devotion. Everything that God has shown me, I've either put in a devotion or I've put into a video, right? These were all things I learned in the middle. All of these lessons, okay? And I know that this journey is hard, and I know that it wears us out. And sometimes we feel like we're really behind and we need to learn everything really, really fast. Sometimes we think that it's up to us, that if we don't learn everything or if we don't do everything, if it's a formula, that we are, we're going to stop restoration. Restoration is not up to us. It never was and it never will be. Okay? That is us falsely understanding what we're doing. God is the one that has your life in His hands. Okay? He is the one that puts it on your heart to follow His lead. And that is what we call a calling. When He He calls your heart, He draws your heart, He pulls your heart. That is what a calling is, okay? He's saying your name. I'm asking you to do this. I'm asking you to partner with me. I'm pulling you. That is what it means to be called. Okay. And we are called in more than just marriage restoration. You're being called to work with Him in some of the areas in your life. And that is a calling, and that's what I speak of when I say a calling. It's not that you are a special chosen person to do something. It's God is calling you, come forward. This is where I'm going for you, and I'm asking you to come with me, because if you don't, I'm going there anyway. And you can either resist me, or you can come with me and we'll do this thing together. That is the calling that he's constantly working toward. He's always working toward making things better for you. And that means he's, coming against your pride. He's coming against your selfishness and rebellious place. He's coming against your hurts and your wounds and your, these places that you're, probably going to be happy with staying in those places. But he's not happy with that. He knows that those places um, prevent you from walking in the fullness that he has for you. So yes, he's going to go against those places in you. Okay? He's going to go against the stubbornness that says, "You know what? It's too hard. I'm too scared to face rejection." But God is not too scared. Jesus is not too scared to go against that rejection route. Okay? He's going to do it with or without you. So he is heading that, he's there working on those places in your life to help you. And he's working in the places of fear. He's working in the places of insecurity. He's working there. And you can work right with him and watch him do the work in you. Okay? And trust him the whole time, trusting him and releasing that, releasing the anger that you have, that things aren't going as fast, or that the misconception or the unbelief that he's not doing the work. Or a lot of times, because you're not seeing it, you pick up, you take the tools away from him and you start doing it yourself, and you're pushing and pushing and trying to get things done quicker than him. And that's impatience, and we have to be so careful. And why impatience comes is because you're feeling, if you've got a root of rejection, you got a root of fear, you're feeling it, right? You're feeling it. What you're not feeling is the change. You're not seeing the change, but you are just still stuck in the pain of whatever those things cause. And so you're thinking that things aren't happening because you don't see the change yet. You're not walking in the fruit of the change. But if you think about a tree, okay, if you think about the process, first, to get the fruit, okay, that fruit is what you're after, right? That's the end. But the middle is the ground being tilled, the ground being worked, the ground being fertilized. All right. So the ground is being prepared, and then the watering system has to be put in. Then the fence has to go up to protect the garden. Okay. And then the seed has to be planted, and the seed has to be nurtured and cared for. And this is where we get so frustrated, because we just want that fruit, but we don't understand how much work the gardener, he is our gardener, how much work he's doing to just prepare you for that fruit to come. There's so much work, and we just get so frustrated. So you've got to one foot in front of the other every day, knowing that you are making progress. It doesn't feel like it, it doesn't look like it, but one day you will have arrived at your destination. That's God for you. Okay? He doesn't just let you stay stuck, even though you look like you're stuck, and even though you look like things are not moving forward. And I've shared this before. The same thing, your spouse is moving forward, even though nothing looks changed for them. So a lot of our journey is learning that our end result has to conform and be his end result. And if you are day in and day out looking at what your spouse is doing and what they're not doing, and you are not putting it into the right alignment, your relationship with God, their relationship with God, marriage restoration comes after that. So if every day your first and foremost is marriage, 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 okay, you're not in alignment yet. You haven't walked far enough yet to get to that place where you put it, put what's first has to come first. And that's God's relationship. God first. So you can put yourself in, you can kind of take a measurement right there on where am I at in my journey? Okay? Am I God first, or am I still marriage first? Am I still spouse first? These are the idols in us that will start to fall. Idols don't just give up and go away. They have to be replaced. We can't just say, you know what, I'm putting this idol down. No, you have to have something in its place, or you'll pick that idol right back up. And for God to be in his rightful place, you've got to come to know him. You don't just put um an idol down and put something less worthy in its place, right? An idol is something very meaningful to you, or otherwise you would never have it. It's valuable to you. That's what idols are. They're giving you something. You would never just let an idol go. You have to replace it with something much more valuable, much more important, much more trustworthy, and that is God. And the only way to replace an idol is to let God become everything that he really is. You're just not seeing it yet. My life was my husband. And then when I lost my husband, in a sense, my idol became my stand. So I replaced one obsession with the other. I was obsessed with my husband. Then I became obsessed with standing for my husband, standing for a marriage. And through all of that, as I walked my journey, as I was in the middle, walking, God became more and more and more real to me. Everything that I did not understand about him, I started to learn that he was everything that I was looking for in my husband. But he was flawless. Where my husband was flawless, God was, where my husband had flaws, God was flawless. And that's what I wanted. I wanted my husband to not hurt me. I wanted my husband to be reliable and trustworthy. I wanted my husband to provide for me, to be my security. I wanted all that. And I found that while your spouse can be a lot of that, they can never be perfect. They can never be God level, right? And guess what? You can have God as all of those things and have your spouse provide security, provide love, provide comfort, provide companionship, okay? God is not saying that once he takes his rightful place in your life, that now you don't need a spouse. He created us for each other. He created us to have that relationship. He created us because he knows that, you know, we need that. We need that in our life. But we are not to use that as a replacement for him. So he's created us to have both. And it's okay to have both, and it's okay to desire both, and it's okay to feel a loss when you do not have your spouse as you should. Okay? There's a lot of condemnation that gets put on people when you're told, oh well, you're putting your spouse in God's place, and you if you had enough faith in God, or if you loved God in the right place, you wouldn't feel this way. Well, that's wrong. God did If that's the case, then God wouldn't have said to Adam that it's not good for you to be alone. God himself said that, okay? Not us. We're just repeating what God already said. We're feeling what God already felt. Adam felt it, and God did not say, "Oh, Adam, you don't love me enough. You don't um use me enough as a companion. You don't come to me enough. That's awful, Adam. Why don't you have me as your everything?" Right? God did not do that. He saw Adam in his need, a human need. He saw that, recognized it, and agreed with it, and said, It is not good for you to be alone. I'm going to create for you a helper that is suitable, a suitable helper. So do not let anybody put on you that you are weak in your faith, that there's something wrong with you. Do not let anybody put that on you. Yes, we do have idols. And yes, there are times when we are so blind and so obsessed with our spouses that we don't even see where God is supposed to be. But if you have God in his rightful place and you are still missing your spouse, you're still heartbroken over the loss of your spouse, that is not anything to do with you having an idol or having too little faith. Nothing like that. So I just want to encourage you today. This middle journey is hard. It is hard. It is long. For some, it's a very long road. But it is a process, and it's not one to grow bitter over. It's not one to be destroyed over. You are to be growing as you go forward. You are to be getting better in your relationship with God. You are to be getting better as a Christian. You are to be growing more and more in all of the good attributes that he is, right? It breaks my heart when I see someone, in the comments, in the YouTube. It breaks my heart when I see them walking and then they come back a year later and they are so full of bitterness, and they are, screaming left and right about this and that, and their spouse is this and their spouse, and they are so full of hate, so full of anger. And that's exactly what standing was never meant to do. It was supposed to be meant to keep you from doing that, right? And sometimes that happens. We get lost in the pain, and we get lost from the details, and we stay put. We stay stuck in the details. And that really is a person who's just stuck. They're not moving forward. They're not turning left. They're not turning right. Even though they may say they've given up and they've turned to the right and they've quit, then what are you doing back on the YouTube page, writing comments about how angry you are at me, at your wife, at your husband? You're so angry at the standing community. You're so angry and bitter. If you've really moved on, okay, you haven't moved on because bitterness makes you stuck. Bitterness makes you stuck. And you may think that you're better now, better off without them, but that hatred in your heart, it's poisoning you, poisoning you. And you're not moved on. You're in a very bad place. And if that's you, how do you get out of it? Well, you've got to go to God and you've got to confess. Confess the hatred. Confess the anger. And you've got to forgive. And you've got to forgive whatever it is that you're holding those bitter judgments against. You could be very angry and unforgiving toward God. And the fact that God has pulled you into this middle place, this middle road, where you're walking and you didn't want to be there. I'm going to tell you right now, none of us wanted to be there. None of us wanted that beginning to start. And none of us wanted to walk this journey. But when we get to our final destination, we look back and we see the progress. We see the love. We see everything that, we came to realize. And I don't regret it at all. It was the worst experience and the best experience of my life. And I don't regret it at all. I thank God every day for what I went through. Because the beginning, while it, might seem like it was much better than it is now, I don't think I was going to heaven. I'm pretty darn sure I was going to walk up to Jesus and he was going to say, "Who are you? I don't know you. And you don't know me." And I'm really confident that that's what I was going to hear, because I did not know him. I did not have a clue. I could not even say, "I love you, God," with a truthful heart. I couldn't say it. I was too broken. I was too lost. I was too blind. But because he loved me enough, he let this storm happen. He loved my husband enough. He let this happen for both of us. And I have no regrets about the storm at all. No regrets. He saved me. The storm came in and it saved me. Yeah, it was a nightmare and it destroyed a lot of things. But guess what it destroyed? It destroyed my fear, destroyed my arrogance, my contentiousness. It destroyed my roots of rejection. It destroyed unbelief. Everything that kept me from knowing who I was in Him. Destroyed condemnation and shame and guilt. Oh, I wish I could be talking to you from that old person that I was. You wouldn't even recognize. You would just be, I'm shutting this off. I don't know who this woman is, but I can't listen to her. That's who I was. You would not have listened to me. Jesus was not in me. I mean, I'm sure I was saved and He was supposed to be in me, but He wasn't coming out in my speech. He wasn't coming out at all. There was nothing about my behavior. I hated people. I hated myself. I hated everything. That's what bitterness was. And I'm so glad He set me free and He changed me. And I had to walk that journey and learn to recognize, oh, I'm all in my emotions. I'm in impatience. Oh, I'm so impatient. I just want this to be over. But you know what happens? And I was just sharing with someone today. We've got something in the oven cooking. And I shared two different versions of this. I said, you open the oven and you want that cake out of there and you reach in and you pull it out without a hot pad on your hand. And then you start screaming because of the pain. And you get mad at the oven temperature. You get mad at the oven. You get mad at everything. But you're the one that wasn't prepared. Okay, first of all, you opened the oven and reached in before the timer ever went off. You reached in and you grabbed it without the proper, equipment, which would be you being ready, you being prepared. And this is the other thing I was sharing with this person. I was saying, our spouses are going through the refiner's fire. If you think of gold and you think of the temperature that it comes, right? It's a very hot liquid. And you're being burned. You're being burned and you're being, you're in a lot of pain as you come in contact with that gold that's being melted down. And God is saying, I am trying to make you a vessel. I'm trying to make you a type of vessel that can handle being in contact with that refining fire, and you're not that type of a person that can be around that yet. You can't handle it. You're too focused on them, and you're not letting me do the work in you. You're not letting me change you and shape you and mold you. You're not, you're still that person that will reach in the oven before the cake is done and grab that burning hot pan and then start screaming because you're not letting me protect your hands. And that was, oh boy, was that me, you guys. So I would either be the person that reached in the oven and grabbed that undone cake, then screaming at God because I got hurt, because I just had to have that talk with my husband. I had to meet him in the driveway and scream at him, right? So that was either me, or I was standing outside the oven, staring at the cake, crying my eyes out like a blubbering idiot. I want it now. I know it's raw. I don't care. I just want it now. Give it to me now, now, now. And then angry at God because I was impatient. Or what other things do? We turn the oven up. Or we send someone to come fix the oven. We do all sorts of things instead of just sitting patient. And why do we even need to sit outside that oven and watch that cake cook? Go get your Bible. Go get your Bible. Go spend time with God. Go do something. Get away from the oven and stop watching it cook. Stop wallowing. Then there's those that go sit in the living room and the cake is cooking and they're in the living room just pouting. God doesn't care about me. I'm hungry. I want my cake. And you're just in there wallowing and reminiscing, and you're stuck in your self-pity. Oh, pity is such a, I did it all. I did it all. But then there were times that I went in my room and I got on my face and I cried out to him and I let him change me and I worshiped and I got on my bike and I rode in the neighborhood and I cried and I did so many different things. I was all over. I was in every room in this house. I would be in the shower crying. It was a long 7 years, but I was never stuck in bitterness. And that is the one good thing I can tell you that did not happen to me. You know why? Because I had come out of bitterness. I was a very bitter person before my storm hit. And God delivered me from that bitterness at my dad. And the first thing I said to God when my storm hit, I said, God, don't let me get bitter again. I had lived bitter for so long, so full of hate. And I was so scared when when I found out he was having an affair. All I could think of was, oh my God, I'm gonna become bitter. I'm gonna turn back into that hateful, horrible woman again. I was terrified. And I just said, and I mean, my first pages, my first months and months of my journal, I started out every day, God, don't let me be bitter. Please protect me. I'll do whatever it takes. Don't let me become a bitter person. I was terrified of that person again. I honestly think that I might have even thought to myself it was because I was bitter that my husband, I might have understood or saw that as the reason why he, was doing what he's doing, because he couldn't handle living with that bitter woman anymore either. And maybe that is part of it. I don't know, but I just know I was terrified. But God never let me get bitter. Never. Sure, I had anger, I had pain, I had heartbreak, I had moments of just a lot of different things. And I would say I had moments of bitterness, but it didn't overcome me and it didn't drive me down dark paths of bitterness where my whole, existence was bitter. None of that. I didn't do that. And I'm so grateful to him. And he knew that I didn't want to be bitter and he didn't want me to be bitter either because that's a place where we take matters into our own hands. A lot of people will quit. A lot of people will get divorced. A lot of people will just do their own thing. Rebellious. It's the root of rebellion is when you're bitter. So I hope this message blessed you today. The middle road is not easy. It is hard, but it is worth traveling. You just have to know that, God knows what he's doing. He knows where he's taking you. You've got to trust him. All right. I love you guys. God bless you. Please give this video a like.